services ISM for the U.S. So we'll get another check on the health of the U.S. economy, and we'll see how the services sector is doing. We're also looking for factory orders and durable goods. Now, I want to bring in our next guest, who comes from Tiger 21, an organization for high net worth individuals. They say members are increasingly cautious about where to place their money and have cut their stock allocations amid lofty valuations. And that is Michael Sonnenfeld, chairman of Tiger 21. Thanks very much for joining me this morning. So it sounds like members of Tiger 21 are fairly nervous at this stage. And I see from your notes that you guys, they've actually been putting more of their money in cash recently. Why put money in cash when you've got some sectors, some value parts of the market that are seeing much more attractive valuations than they have in the past?
Sure. So nervous might be a little overstatement. What's going on is members took money out of real estate from low 30% allocation to high 20s. Public equity is at a low for the decade, 21%. But private equity is still very high at 24%. So when you add those three up, working assets still over 70%, but 12% in cash. And the reason for high cash is our members want to be able to weather a downturn and not be forced to liquidate. Our members are entrepreneurs, so they want to have cash so they can pounce when an opportunity is available.
It's interesting you make the point about private equity, and we know private equity has been sitting on record amounts of dry powder, and the question has been when they're going to get more involved, and perhaps even we've seen some UK companies become targets for private equity. Is that part of the thesis there when it comes to private equity?
So our members are entrepreneurs who have largely built great businesses and then exited. And when they invest, they're not investing in the big deals. They're investing in small companies where they really have an edge, where they can roll up their shirt sleeves and make a difference. So you see these huge private equity deals, there's a lot of cash, but when you can build value, you still have an opportunity that's terrific.
Now, this week we've seen a pretty drastic market sell-off, and a lot of that came on the back of that ISM number, the manufacturing print in the U.S. When we think about the U.S. versus other regions, how are members of Tiger 21 feeling?
So if you're over 70% invested in working assets, long-term, you'd be quite positive, maybe even bullish. But in the short term, people are concerned. People who we polled 6 months ago in our groups, we have groups in 30 different cities, they were beginning to get nervous. Today, they're more nervous. So yes, there is some nervousness, but fundamentally, people believe in the long-term power of working assets.
Now, you initially cautioned me against using the word nervous, a little bit too strong to reflect how members are actually feeling.
Right.
What are the key catalysts that members are looking at when we look long-term here?
So, well, in the shorter term, deficit is really a concern, and the trade wars, not knowing where it is. Yesterday, I was in a London group of Tiger 21, and the Brexit concerns are less about which way it goes than getting it resolved. The uncertainty is slowing things down. So in the U.S., it's the uncertainty that people are concerned about. But when you have built a great business, you tend to be able to shuck and jive and move to respond to market conditions.
That uncertainty is certainly a theme that we have been facing for several months, and just with our earlier guest talking about the uncertainty that's keeping investors away from sterling at the moment. When it comes to currency, I mean, the U.S. dollar has been a key focal point for President Trump. And even on the back of this manufacturing print, he was very vocal, coming to Twitter right away, saying that the strong dollar and the Fed are to blame for the downturn there. So how important is the Fed's decision making to Tiger 21 constituents?
I would say of all of the president's choices, the choice of Powell to head the Fed has been generally very positive. The Fed has an independent role, as you know, but members see interest rates coming down. 6 months ago, they said if they came down, that would be a concern. Today, it's a little less so, but it's still concerning, and it shows weakness, so people are concerned.
All right. Well, leave the conversation there for now, but we're going to come back in just a moment. That's Michael Sonnenfeld, chairman of Tiger 21. Let's just touch base on a story we've been following over the last several days, and that's around Libra. Policy executives from the consortium behind Facebook's controversial cryptocurrency project will attend a meeting in Washington, D.C. today. That's after the tech giant's top Libra executive denied reports key founding members were wavering in their support amid amid scrutiny from regulators. And now Elizabeth, our tech correspondent, joins us around the desk. Elizabeth, so you have been reporting on this story now for the last couple of days. A pretty fascinating set of developments here. Is the Libra Association moving forward with its plans for this cryptocurrency despite some of the pushback?
They are certainly trying to. And essentially what we're seeing is the members coming together to talk about the next steps here. So there's a meeting we've confirmed happening today in Washington, and October 14th, founding members of this Libra Association will be meeting in Geneva. Now, you'll remember the Libra Association, it's a group of 28 companies, more than two, coming together to try to make this digital currency a reality here. And interestingly, coming from all different spaces, we have companies like Uber, PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, Spotify. No banks are part of that founding member group as of right now, and they've had to make an initial commitment. It looks like at the Geneva meeting, the plan is to vote on a board of directors for this association, a step closer to bringing this to fruition, which is planned for 2020. Now, that all depends, of course, on the reaction that we get from regulators. We've heard no shortage of regulatory feedback from here in Europe, from the U.S., also from politicians. David Marcus, the head of this project at Facebook, had to face some pretty tough testimony in front of both House and Senate committees. So the question is how much that regulatory pressure and the feedback that we're getting from that side will affect kind of the plans to move this forward still.
What are the outstanding questions from regulators?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've heard a lot about money laundering, terrorism financing, financial stability. The central bankers have all sort of come together with a similar line about how this is going to affect the financial banking system, whether it's through the transmission of monetary policy or just as a general kind of, is it going to replace other sovereign currencies? Facebook and the Libra Association have maintained that they will continue to work with regulators. They say this is not something that is trying to circumvent the regulatory process. They're dead set on making sure that they have the required approvals, but that they want to continue to move forward with this innovation. So we're continuing to hear those concerns, probably not going to be simmering down anytime soon, but likely the effect that it will have is kind of the big question that we'll have on the timeline, and that's what we're looking out for today and in the coming weeks.
All right, so we'll look forward to your continued coverage. Elizabeth, that is our tech correspondent. Thank you very much. Well, let's get back to the chairman of Tiger 21, who's still with us and says there is no longer buzz around Facebook. What do you mean by that, and what are your members feeling about this tech giant?
Well, we're a community of 750 entrepreneurs, and like any community, we have rules and regulations for the protection of the community. John Locke, the famous philosopher from England, said it all. Facebook has fallen down. It has not been responsible with its community, and it's created huge damage. So when you talk about things like a new currency and you have to use the question, will Facebook act responsibly? They have a long way to go to prove that they can.
And earlier this week, we saw Facebook right in the limelight with Mark Zuckerberg, the leaked audio showing him really heavily criticizing Elizabeth Warren and suggesting he would go to the mat should she win the Democratic bid. I mean, is that going to be a major catalyst for this stock?
Well, all of our members were CEOs of businesses, and what's amazing is the amount of integrity that's required to have people follow great leaders. I think Mark Zuckerberg has fallen down on that, and he's let not only his employees, but the members of Facebook, the users, down. They talk a good game, but their lack of patrolling their community has created great concerns. On the other hand, if you were an investor in artificial intelligence, that's a theme that comes through Tiger a lot. Facebook is one of the great 7 companies that has a treasure trove of AI. So you have to look through which lens are you doing it. There's obviously people who are lovers and haters of the stock, but you have to understand the reasons and the motivations.
It's certainly very tricky, and that's ultimately the conundrum, that these tech companies are the ones offering major innovation, but are also at significant regulatory risk. Now, earlier you said that while your members are cautious when it comes to investing at this point, they are keeping their powder dry for opportunities. So where within the tech sector do they see these opportunities, and would they buy in on a dip?
So as an example, in Denver, our Denver group is very interested in space technology, the growing opportunities within space. In terms of our group, we've been passing around a book by the former head of Google China, about AI superpowers. And if you were interested in the transformational power of AI, you'd be looking at Alphabet and Amazon and Microsoft, Facebook, Baidu, Tencent, in Alibaba. Those 7 companies have more AI potential. And some people predict that within the next 10 years, 20 to 50% of the jobs in America will be at risk because of AI. So it's a tsunami, and people better watch out for it.
Now, you mentioned several companies based in China there, Tencent, Alibaba, and the trade war being a key risk that your members are closely watching. How have their appetite for Chinese investments evolved amid the escalation in trade tensions?
I would say most people are in a wait and see. There are some who say China's not going away, and if there's an opportunity, they'll play it. But on the other side, if you look in, as an example, Colorado and Wisconsin, dairies are going out of business at record rates because the tariffs have put the dairy farmers out of business. That's why our entrepreneur members keep high cash amounts, because that could be a buying opportunity.
Now, one last question, just having a look through your notes and what members are thinking. Tesla came up as something that your members have been discussing of late. Just last night, we got an update from Tesla that was disappointing to many. What are you guys thinking about this company here?
So we actually, when we look at a company, we took a Tiger delegation to Tesla and got an insider's view. Tesla's an amazing company. There's been times when it's overpriced. The big theme had been that all of the other car companies were coming out with competing product, but what nobody focuses on is that now the Tesla charging network is so superior that they have an edge that people were not counting on. So there's still a long way to go, but it's way out ahead of its competitors, even though it's great to see all the new electric cars coming from other manufacturers.
All right. Well, an exciting part of the market for sure. Well, thank you very much for joining us. That's Michael Sonnenfeld, the chairman of Tiger 21. Well, let's get back to the WTO situation. We've got some fresh lines out, this time from French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire. He is commenting that if the U.S. rejects the hand we have extended in Airbus trade dispute, we are ready to respond with sanctions. And this, of course, has been the big question. If the U.S. proceeds with slapping tariffs on European goods, will Europe respond and slap their own tariffs on U.S. goods? Now, as you heard from Willem there earlier, the prevailing view is that no retaliation is allowed by the WTO, and the EU may only impose tariffs once the WTO rules on the Boeing subsidies. This is a case that's not due to come to fruition until 2020. But as Willem pointed out, that's not necessarily sealed in stone there. That it's sealed there. There is a chance they could work around this. We are in unprecedented waters given the magnitude of this ruling from the WTO. So potentially we could see a reaction from the EU sooner than that Boeing case is settled. So those are some pretty strong words from the French finance minister that they are ready to respond with sanctions if the U.S. rejects the hand we've extended in this Airbus trade dispute. Now, pushing on, President Trump has lashed out at House Democrats over the impeachment inquiry, saying his political rivals are pursuing a, quote, hoax. The U.S. president tweeted that Democrats were wasting everyone's time and energy. He also reiterated claims that a phone call with Ukrainian president was perfect. However, the president said he would comply with investigators as Democratic-led congressional committees threatened to subpoena the White House.
I always cooperate. This is a hoax. This is the greatest hoax. This is just a continuation of what's been playing out, John, for the last, since my election, I would say, if you want to. Probably, we'll find out soon, but probably even before my election. This is a fraudulent crime on the American people, but we'll work together with Shifty Schiff and Pelosi and all of them, and we'll see what happens, because we did absolutely. I had a great call with the president of Ukraine.
All right. Well, coming up on the show, in fashion, H&M third quarter pre-tax profits beat expectations despite challenging conditions in some markets.
This is the family who wanted to connect.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Fly from London Heathrow to Shannon from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus and experience something new on your next trip to Ireland. Discover the soaring cliffs and stunning scenery of the wild Atlantic Way. Explore the charming local towns and relax by the fireside with some traditional music and fresh seafood. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies, Aer Lingus. Book now at airlingus.com. Offers subject to conditions and availability.
Down come the leaves, and up goes my energy bill.
Want to stop your heating bills going through the roof? Get to B&Q. We've a wide range of winter home warmers, from draft excluders to loft insulation rolls. Need home delivery or insulation advice? Ask in store or visit DIY.com. You can do it when you B&Q it.
What if you could keep up with cable news even when you're on the go? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to MSNBC live without any commercial interruptions. All of the news, none of the ads. Listen live on TuneIn Premium today.
Catch the latest news as it happens with MSNBC on TuneIn. From American politics to global events, when breaking news hits, you'll never miss a moment again. Search MSNBC on TuneIn to hear the latest.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio happenings across the app. Explore exclusive content.
It's called Indie.
Learn about the hottest new podcasts.
The Nostalgia Mixtape, a new podcast hosted by yours truly, Savannah Shroudy.
And get alerted when the big game's about to begin.
This Sunday is Championship Sunday, when we'll find out which two teams are going to play for the Lombardi Trophy.
Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
MLB is right here on TuneIn.
A swing and a drive to right field. That's it. Well, Ramirez back, and that ball's gone.
And to find it all, you need to search MLB on TuneIn.
By the wall, out of here.
Home and away calls are a click away on TuneIn Premium.
Welcome back to Street Signs. Well, it's been a pretty data-heavy morning here in Europe. I want to just recap for you what we've learned so far. The UK services sector shrunk unexpectedly in September to 49.5, entering contraction territory as worries increased around the risk of a disruptive Brexit. Elsewhere in Europe, we got the German services PMI, which fell for the first time since 2014, while French business activity also expanded at a slower than expected rate. Now, one bright spot was in Italy, where the country's services sector grew for the fourth straight month. So that's the picture when it comes to macro data. We've also got a couple of corporate earnings in focus this morning. Pre-tax profits at H&M beat expectations in the third quarter, coming in at just over 5 billion crowns. The fashion retailer also posted an 8% rise in sales growth. It's the first time H&M has posted a quarterly pre-tax profit rise since Q2 of 2017. Ted Baker has issued a profit warning after it posted a first half pre-tax loss of £23 million and warned of a slow start to the second half of the year. The British retailer says sales were hit by unusually warm weather, weaker demand, and competitor discounts. Now, Richard Lim, CEO of Retail Economics, joins me around the desk to help make sense of the numbers we've heard today and more broadly the retail space. So just on H&M, we're seeing quite a strong share price reaction today with shares up more than 6%. Is this reflective of investor positioning and overall sentiment toward the sector where any little bit of good news is enough to get the stock going?
Sure. I mean, H&M have been under pressure a lot recently over the last few years. And I think what this shows is that after a period of investment in the business and really driving through the strategies of moving towards a more digital focused business model and also putting experiences and also really focusing on the customer and the customer journey and also control of stock, really importantly. They've managed to grow profits and they've really beaten expectations, so this is good news for H&M.
On the strategy front, two things jumped out to me from H&M's report. One, that they noted that their integration of online and physical stores continues at full speed, and that later this year they plan to offer customers a chance to shop online from cost Phelps, Weekday Monkey, and other stores, and Arquette in about 70 or so new markets. So they're really offering an integration of these things, but also offering different brands through H&M. What do you think of this strategy?
I think it's absolutely crucial to the future of apparel in particular. And shoppers don't shop in channels. They bounce across physical and digital realms, often at the same time as well. So the customer journey is becoming increasingly more complex. Social media is a really crucial tool for retailers to really bring about awareness of new products and new ranges and things like that. So integrating physical and digital, allowing people digital touch points within stores to support and dovetail both sides of the business is a really important strategy, and that's the right thing for them to do.
Now, zeroing in on the UK, I was reading through some of your latest research on Brexit, and one finding caught my eye. In a study that you've done, you found that Remainers are twice as likely to cut back on spending in the final quarter than Leavers. Is this simply because Remainers, or those who voted to remain, see Brexit as a big negative for the UK and thus adjust their spending behavior more significantly as a result?
Yeah, I mean, in the UK, consumer confidence still remains pretty fragile, and some data sets suggest that it's the weakest for about 2 years. The research that we did really just shows a polarisation of confidence, and actually, just like the UK in terms of polarisation of people's positions on Brexit, that's manifested itself into the way people are confident around spending, particularly on big ticket items. So what we found exactly is that the Remainers side of the camp are essentially less confident about making purchases in big ticket items, and as we'd expect, the Leavers are more confident. But it's just the magnitude of difference is quite visible.
So it's pretty clear, and through speaking to you, that there are a number of headwinds facing this sector. We've got the polarization in terms of shoppers' response to Brexit, the shift to online, the competition from discounters, which we haven't really touched on yet. Amid all of this change for the sector, how do you determine which companies are best placed to adapt and come out on top?
Well, it's really those that really put their customers at the heart of the business. They have a unique and distinctive proposition, and they have something that stands out in the market. And some of those strategies, of course, are about having digital at the heart of the business and customer experiences, but also it's really about driving operational efficiencies and having a really clinical view on the bottom line. And so what we found as well, some part of our research, is that profit margins within the whole of the non-food sector within retail have essentially halved in the last 8 years. And this is because operating costs continue to rise. They're rising because of things like business rates, national living wage, national minimum wage, the apprenticeship levy. That's all pushing costs upwards and really eroding margins.
All right, difficult picture there. Richard Lim, CEO of Retail Economics, thank you very much for joining us. Well, that is it for Street Signs. Stay tuned with the channel.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America.
I can find and fund my car, from a Mini to a Jaguar.
Feel good car buying from findandfundmycar.com is the place where you can find quality used cars from trusted dealers rated by you, and where you can fund your car with finance to fit your budget. It's feel good car buying, all in one place.
Shouldn't be a carry on, choose findandfundmycar.com.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Did you know Carphone Warehouse does business? That's why we understand how hard it is to go from this to this. But when you switch to the Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone with O2, you don't have to. It's packed with features to help you stay on track on the move. So, if you want to end your summer feeling like this and not this, switch and save today with O2 and get the Samsung Galaxy S10 with 60 gigabytes of data for only £43 per month. Visit your nearest store or go online at business.carphonewarehouse.com/switch and save.
Time is money. Or so money says. Well, money. I know you like to dictate every hour of every day, add to my to-do list and throw the odd spanner in the works. But not anymore. This is my business, and I run it on my watch. I'm in control now, money. And times are changing. Save time with instant business invoicing, now on the Barclays app. Search Barclays Business and make money work for you.
Must have a Barclays business account. T's and C's apply. At Argos, save 25% off homewares across thousands of lines. Our autumn-winter home and furniture collection is here. So stylish, you can wear it. With Argos, you're good to go. Offer ends 8th of October. Conditions apply. Subject to availability, selected lines.
The relaxing sound of fresh, cold running water. And you can have it in your kitchen. With amazing savings on Samsung fridge freezers at Currys PC World. Like the RB31 with its chilled water dispenser for only $3.99. Or upgrade to the Samsung RS8000 American-style fridge freezer with water and ice dispenser.
A huge 609 litres of storage space.
At just $104.9. How relaxing. At Currys PC World. Energy rating A+. T's and C's apply.
Searching for a more memorable short break? Fly from London Heathrow to Cork from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus. Step off the plane and into a warm welcome in Cork. Surround yourself with breathtaking coastal views. Soak up the culture of Cork City or head to the colourful town of Kinsale and indulge in the best seafood around. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies, Aer Lingus. Book now at airlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Find out what you need to do to prepare at gov.uk/Brexit.
5 a.m. at CNBC Global Headquarters, and here is your 5 at 5. An October gut check. Stocks coming off their worst day since August as the major averages wipe out their entire third quarter gains in just 2 days of trading. Tech stocks taking it especially hard here. The NASDAQ now more than 6.5% off of its recent record highs. And it is all about the economy. The latest reads on the U.S. manufacturing data and private sector hiring missed Wall Street estimates as investors want another key report today to show something different. And then trade tensions certainly not helping matters. President Trump opening a new front in his global trade war, slapping dozens of new tariffs on goods coming out of the European Union, and more roadblocks for Tesla. Why a record number of deliveries was not enough to satisfy shareholders. It is Thursday, October 3rd, and Worldwide Exchange begins right now. Good morning and welcome. I'm Dominic Chu in for Brian Sullivan this morning. Talk about coming up short. Shares of Tesla setting up for a rough morning despite posting a record delivery number for its most recent quarter. You can see there Tesla shares off by about 5% in the extended trade. Once a darling of Wall Street, the stock has been struggling this year, down nearly 30%. We've got much more on that story coming up. But first, an October gut check for U.S. stocks. The Dow plunging more than 400 points on its second day of trading in the fourth quarter. Now, over the past 2 days, the Dow has shed some 838 points or 3.1%. The S&P down 3% to start the month as well. And this is the first time in its history, the S&P kicked off the fourth quarter with back-to-back drops of 1% or more apiece. That's according to Bespoke Investment Group. And this morning, stock futures pointing to what could be a modest recovery at this stage. You can see here the Dow Jones would open up by about just 7 points, the NASDAQ up by 6 points, and the S&P up by just about 1 point right now. The bond market's still in focus. We have the yield on the 10-year U.S. government Treasury note right now 1.58%, so that has been trending to the downside. The 2-year note yield 1.47% as well. Let's go worldwide. In Asian trading, mainland China and South Korea are closed, but in Japan, we are seeing some moves there down about 2%. Some of those trade fears and global economic worries playing out there. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong up 0.25%. In German trade, Europe, financial markets closed a lot of places there, but you can see in France, up 0.5% so far, the FTSE 100 down 0.5%, and the FTSE MIB in Italy up 0.5% there. So those European markets, again, German trading closed on the day. That's where we begin today because the Trump administration just opened a new front in its global trade war, releasing a list of goods coming out of the European Union that will now be subject to new tariffs. Our Contessa Brewer is here with the latest on those details. Good morning, Contessa.
Good morning, Dom. The Trump administration plans to move quickly to impose tariffs on up to 25% on $7.5 billion worth of imports from the European Union. They're scheduled to go into effect by October 18th. And the World Trade Organization has ruled in favor of the United States in a case over aircraft subsidies to Airbus. The WTO, in fact, authorized the U.S. to slap 100% levies, but Washington's holding back for now. The U.S. tariffs heavily target the 4 Airbus consortium countries, France, Britain, Germany, and Spain. New planes from the EU will be subject to a 10% tariff. However, there are no tariffs for European-made parts used in Airbus's plant in Alabama or those used by Boeing. Other agricultural and industrial goods will face 25% penalties. That includes Irish and Scotch whiskey, German tools and coffee, French wine and olives, and Spanish olive oil. Cheese from nearly every country is also tariffed here, but Italian wine and olive oil will be spared. President Trump hailed the WTO ruling as a big win. These two sides have been fighting this case for 15 years. The WTO is expected to give the EU the green light to impose tariffs in the coming months on U.S. goods over subsidies that were given to Boeing. So here we're getting into, Dom, another tit for tat.
Another front on the trade war. Contessa Brewer, thank you very much for that. Well, back home, investors remain focused very intently on the strength of the U.S. economy. And in less than 5 hours, we will get a key reading on the ISM non-manufacturing or services index, covering the vast majority of the services sector in the U.S. economy, one that accounts for more than 80% of the employment in the United States. So let's bring in Peter Bookvar, Chief Investment Officer and Bleakley Advisory Group. Just overall, that ISM manufacturing number was arguably what provided the real downside draft to markets. How important is the services read going to be when it comes to trying to either counter or exacerbate the moves that we've seen?
Well, much more important because, as you stated, it makes up a much bigger part of the U.S. economy. But we can't separate the two because a lot of services businesses have manufacturers as clients.
In what way? I mean, is that the reason why we focus so much on those transportation stocks?
So the transportation companies, the trucking companies, the rails are considered services, but they're shipping all the goods that the manufacturers are making. Or take a restaurant that happens to have a location near a manufacturing facility. If there are less people working at the manufacturing facility, there are less people going out to the restaurants. So there is a connection, and yes, manufacturing is only about 10% of growth, but it also reflects a general slowdown that services side of the economy is not going to be immune from.
Has that services side of the economy recently, over the course of the past, say, year, shown signs that we are due for a recession anytime soon?
Well, if you look at the ISM measure and you look at market, their services indices have been moderating. Not to the same extent as manufacturing, but there has been a crossover in the sense that manufacturing is now beginning to affect the services side. Now, services generally over the past year, not just in the U.S., but in Asia and also Europe, has held in much better. You know, even look at Germany. Germany's economy is basically flatlining for 2 quarters, but their unemployment rate is the lowest since reunification, and the consumer is actually still hanging in there. But you wonder, for how long can this be? When you take manufacturing, well, they're beginning to cut hours. They're beginning to cut workers. Well, these people are then going to spend less money at retail and restaurants, as I mentioned, and other services. So they are intertwined. And again, the services side's not going to be immune.
There was a lot of commentary, a lot of dissection of that PMI manufacturing number, right? This idea that you could see, you know, certain parts subsector-wise within that report show even dire circumstances ahead, even more dire than what we saw with the headline number. Are there places within ISM non-manufacturing and services that you will be dissecting into to see whether or not there is any validation for the current sentiment that we're seeing?
Well, to your point, the biggest obvious weakness in manufacturing was the export number, where exports got down to like 41, and with 50 being the break even. Now, on the services side, they'll report an export number, but only some service companies have exports. So it's a much smaller component. But I'll still be watching the export component and also new orders and backlogs, because that is a leading indicator of what's to come over the next couple of months.
Do we have a recession coming in the next 6, 12 months?
I think right now the trajectory is obviously slowing. What tips us over into recession, I believe, can very well be where the stock market goes, because the consumer is holding us up. The upper end consumer spends most of the money. If the stock market starts to react to a deterioration in earnings, and then we see a decline, and that affects consumer spending, that could be what tips us over into a recession. But if we do get a recession, I'm only expecting a mild one. Just as the expansion was mild, I expect any recession that we get to be mild as well. But this time around, we're not going to be able to rely on the Fed and rate cuts to somehow regenerate growth, just as we had in the past. Now, they'll try, but I just think we are desensitized to a lower cost of capital, since the cost of capital is already so low.
All right. Peter Bookvar, Bleakley, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dom.
Appreciate it. When we come back on the show, Facebook facing an uphill battle on Capitol Hill as it struggles to keep its Libra digital coin afloat, plus 2 unlikely faces teaming up in Texas today. Those details next. And later on, thrill seekers and adrenaline junkies, listen up, because we have a stock for you. A very busy hour ahead when Worldwide Exchange returns after this break.
Yes.
Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden.
Hot breakfast. Tom Hanks is our special guest.
You're either being punished or rewarded. I'll let you decide.
I did do a whole show of grease on my front lawn when I was a kid. We charged everyone 10p. We raised a £5 and I gave it to Bishop's Waltham Gymnastics Club towards a new crash mat.
Do they get the crash mat?
I mean, it took a couple more years, but yeah.
It does happen to normal people like you. You've won £20,000. Well done.
I love this game.
Hot breakfast
with Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden. Weekdays from 6:30. Listen on your radio, global player, or smart speaker.
Play hard.
No one wants to get caught in the cold in London. We're with you. So our boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit to avoid a big chill to your wallet. You'll get a 5-year British Gas warranty. And now we can even quote by video call after work or weekends at a time that suits you. Get a quote by the 30th of November and get £150 off a new boiler, or £450 off for existing home care customers. Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply.
The MLB is in full swing.
Looking up, and this one is up and out. A home run.
Swung on and into the air to deep left. That ball is high. That is far. That is gone.
To listen, just search MLB Today on TuneIn Premium so you don't miss a moment of the games on TuneIn.
These are the top buzzing stories on TuneIn.
Joaquin Phoenix talks about how he and director Todd Phillips developed his laugh for Joker.
He described the laughter as something that's almost painful. It is Joker. It's a part of him that's trying to emerge, right? Because I think we all kind of assume what a Joker laugh is, and it felt like it was a new, fresh way of looking at it.
Oprah Winfrey on what she would have done differently in her life.
I would probably have ended my show and then tried to start a network, because what I did was try to do both at the same time.
Comedian Tiffany Haddish has a special way that she gets rid of fat.
You put Vicks Vapor Rub on your stomach.
Because it helps to eliminate fat cells.
That's not true.
Yes, it does.
That is.
Okay, let me tell you something. I've lost 3 inches on my waistline. Don't be hating.
Those are the top stories that are buzzing on TuneIn.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stands on his feet and scores.
What's happening in college football this week? This Saturday, 2 undefeated SEC teams square off to see who is a college football playoff contender. Number 10 Florida welcomes number 7 Auburn to town at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Just search college to listen today.
That's a live shot of Capitol Hill, because on Capitol Hill today, executives backing Facebook's Libra digital currency are meeting with lawmakers as the social network looks to keep that project on track. Our Elizabeth Scholze is live in London with the latest on what we can expect. And Elizabeth, these are lawmakers. This is Facebook. It could get contentious, right?
Right. Well, look, Dom, what we know, members of the Libra Association are in this meeting, are participating in this meeting in Washington. It's part of this effort to create a new digital currency called, of course, Libra. Now, the Libra Association, as you remember, is a Geneva-based nonprofit organization, and there are more than 24 companies that are part of this project. Facebook is one of those, and there are others that we've talked about, like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Uber, Spotify. Now, we have confirmed that member companies are meeting today, and they'll also be meeting October 14th in Geneva, and that's where they're expected to vote on a board of directors for this Libra Association. Now, this is following some reports of original members, including Visa and MasterCard, reconsidering their involvement in Libra. David Marcus, though, the head of the project at Facebook, has totally kind of debunked those reports, saying he has no specific knowledge of organizations not wanting to participate. He has said that he wants to calmly work through all these regulatory issues related to the cryptocurrency. We've also heard that Facebook CEO Sheryl Sandberg is planning to testify on this the cryptocurrency at some point. This is amid ongoing complaints, concerns from regulators, not just in the U.S., but all around the world, Dom. We've heard about issues related to money laundering, market power, data privacy, and all. The question is about how these concerns that we're hearing from policymakers and politicians will delay possibly the launch of this cryptocurrency, which is still planned for next year as of right now.
Well, Elizabeth, while we have you here, that's Libra, and that's what's happening in Washington. While we have you here, there are two perhaps unlikely faces that are teaming up at an event in Dallas, Texas later on today. It's the meeting of tech and politics again. What can you tell us about what's going on in Texas?
Yes, so it's Google CEO Sundar Pichai and White House senior advisor Ivanka Trump teaming up today. They're hosting a roundtable event in Dallas. This is going to be focused on retraining America's workforce. And Ivanka Trump has been the co-chair of this White House initiative that's aimed at improving education and workforce training. We've already seen several companies like Apple sign on to that initiative, as well as some leaders in the public sector, too. I will just say there's a little bit of irony that this event is taking place in Texas. We know that the Attorney General in Texas is leading an antitrust investigation into Google. And you'll remember that Texas announced that antitrust investigation alongside 49 other attorneys general earlier this year, and that was focused on Google's dominance in sectors like online advertising. So we're seeing how this kind of debate between the tech sector and government is playing out, whether it's through partnerships or more kind of adversarial initiatives on the antitrust and regulatory front, Dom.
All right, tech and government, always a key focus. Thank you very much, Elizabeth Schulze, live in London. Well, still on deck on the show, not swayed by its unicorn peers, Airbnb pushing ahead with its plans to go public. New details this morning, plus...
I just bought us some new sheets at Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh, boy, I hope you stayed away from that Beyond section. Oh, here are the coffee mugs.
That was for all you Family Guy fans out there. Peter Griffin aside, why investors may want to stay away from Bed Bath & Beyond stock. That's coming up when Worldwide Exchange returns after this.
There's golf.
Did you know Carphone Warehouse does business? That's why we understand how hard it is to go from this to this. But when you switch to the Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone with O2, you don't have to. It's packed with features to help you stay on track on the move. So, if you want to end your summer feeling like this and not this, switch and save today with O2 and get the Samsung Galaxy S10 with 60 gigabytes of data for only £43 per month. Visit your nearest store or go online at business.carphonewarehouse.com/switch and save.
When it comes to keeping your small business valuable information safe, Dell Small Business Technology Advisors can recommend tailored security solutions like computers with Intel Core processors, servers, storage, networking, plus industry-leading monitors and software. Running your own small business is a big challenge, but with the right partner, it's a lot easier. To speak with an advisor today, call 0800 085 4878. That's 0800 085 4878.
Theakston and Amanda Holden.
Hot breakfast.
Tom Hanks is our special guest. You're either being punished or rewarded. I'll let you decide.
side. I did do a whole show of grease on my front lawn when I was a kid. We charged everyone 10p. We raised a £5 and I gave it to Bishop's Waltham Gymnastics Club towards a new crash mat.
Do they get the crash mat?
I mean, it took a couple more years, but yeah.
It does happen to normal people like you. You've won £20,000. Well done.
I love this game.
Breakfast with Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden. Weekdays from 6:30. Listen on your radio, global player, or smart speaker.
Play hard. You're 169 in the queue.
I proposed on the 169. She got for the next stop.
You're my 169th greatest lover.
The number 169 never screamed going places until now. Get the Toyota Aygo X-Play for only £169 deposit, then £169 a month with 0% APR representative. Just go. Aygo.
0% APR representative on new sales of Aygo X-Play over 48 months. £169 per month. Customer deposit of £169 when proposed and approved via Access Toyota by 31st of October 2019. £3,487.50p optional final payment. Subject to status to over 18s. Indemnities may be required. Conditions apply. Toyota Financial Services.
Welcome back to the show. Short-term home rental company Airbnb is set to hire Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs as joint lead advisors on its planned public market debut that happens next month. This is according to Reuters. The appointments would represent another boon for the investment banks, albeit potentially less lucrative than usual because Airbnb is reportedly leaning towards going public through a direct listing process rather than a traditional initial public offering. Much more on that story as it develops. Well, let's get a check on some of the other big stock moves of the day so far. Tesla delivered a record 97,000 cars in the third quarter, but that missed analyst projections. About 3/4 of those deliveries were the Model 3, while shipments of the higher-priced Model S and Model X dropped from the previous quarter. Tesla says orders are exceeding deliveries, and it's entering the fourth quarter with an order backlog. Still, though, those shares off by about 4%, as you can see, pre-market. Bed Bath & Beyond same-store sales fell 7% in the latest quarter, worse than expected. The retailer is also cutting its earnings outlook for the year. The company says it's making progress in the search for a new permanent chief executive, and those shares off by about 1.5% pre-market. And then shares of GoPro, they are tumbling. The company is cutting its guidance for the second half of the year. That's primarily due to production delays for the latest Hero 8 Black cameras, and as a result, those shares off 16% in the extended trade. Well, still to come on the show, the impeachment inquiry plot thickens on Capitol Hill today as one character at the center of the investigation is set to testify to Congress behind closed doors. And later on, facing the fallout as Wall Street looks to recover from one of its worst starts to the fourth quarter ever. Worldwide Exchange is back right after this.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions, like online skills tests, which let a candidate show that they are the right hire. And we give you this toy monkey, who will bang its cymbals when the right CV appears on your desktop. Okay, there is no monkey. There is no monkey. But there are online skills tests.
See why more than 250,000 companies in the UK use Indeed for hiring. Visit Indeed.com/try today to try skills tests for free today. Terms and conditions apply.
Today, your information is more exposed than ever. When you shop, sign in, or browse, you could be vulnerable to cybercriminals. More online threats demand more protection. That's why new Norton 360 provides multiple layers of protection, combining device security, secure VPN, password manager, and cloud backup all in one solution. Get new Norton 360, starting at $24.99 for the first year.
We could play epic music, or we could speak in an overdramatic tone, or even set off fireworks. But that's just not smarty. Instead, we let our offer do the talking. Right now, you can grab 25% off our unlimited data SIM. That's just $18.75 a month with no speed restrictions, no credit check, and no long contract to tie you in. Now that's smarty. Just search Smarty Mobile and switch today. It's easy. Offer available for a limited time only. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
At Argos, save 25% off homewares across thousands of lines. Our autumn-winter home and furniture collection is here. So stylish, you can wear it. With Argos, you're good to go. Offer ends 8th of October. Conditions apply. Subject to availability, selected lines. The relaxing sound of fresh, cold running water. And you can have it in your kitchen. With amazing savings on Samsung fridge freezers at Currys PC World. Like the RB31 with its chilled water dispenser for only $3.99. Or upgrade to the Samsung RS8000 American-style fridge freezer with water and ice dispenser.
A huge 609 litres of storage space.
At just $104.9. How relaxing. At Currys PC World. Energy rating A+. T's and C's apply.
President Trump is escalating his attacks on the House impeachment inquiry, accusing Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff of treason. And now a key official in the investigation is set to testify today. NBC's Tracy Potts joins us live from Washington now with the latest. Good morning, Tracy.
Hey there, Dom. Good morning. Yeah, the president got pretty upset. He was hurling insults. He used some colorful language. Fair warning here online. We're going to show you that. But moving forward, today, there is going to be some key testimony by a former State Department insider on what was going on between the department and Ukraine.
For the opportunity to testify today.
Kurt Volker, the former special envoy to Ukraine, testifies today. He resigned last week after being named in a whistleblower complaint that sparked the impeachment inquiry. Democrats are warning the administration against stonewalling more testimony and accusing the whistleblower of treason.
This is a blatant effort to intimidate witnesses. It's an incitement to violence.
President Trump's fed up with the investigation.
Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
Exploding in anger at Democrats. Adam Schiff.
He's a lowlife. He should be forced to resign.
Nancy Pelosi.
She hands out subpoenas like they're cookies.
Joe Biden.
Biden and his son are stone cold crooked, and you know it.
And the whistleblower tweeting this expletive about Democrats' inquiry into whether he pressured Ukraine to investigate Biden.
We have to do more than beat Donald Trump. We have to beat him like a drum.
Now the Washington Post reports Vice President Pence was involved.
It seems that President Trump has engaged him quite centrally in this series of facts.
Overnight, the vice president's office called the story a grand conspiracy from disgruntled former employees. Now Democrats, they're threatening to subpoena the White House if they don't get the documents they want by tomorrow, Dom.
All right, Tracy Potts with the latest in Washington. Thank you very much. Let's get a check on this morning's other top headlines. NBC's Philip Mena is live in the New York newsroom with the latest. Good morning, Philip.
Hey, Dom, good morning. Now, the president of Russia is trolling America ahead of the 2020 election. Vladimir Putin joked about interfering in the White House race during an energy forum yesterday.
I'll tell you in a secret. Yes, we will definitely intervene. It's a secret, so that everybody can laugh, and so we'll go big. But don't tell anyone, please.
Putin also said that he would be fine with the White House releasing notes of his conversations with President Trump during last year's summit in Helsinki. A rare chance to fly aboard a World War II-era bomber ended in disaster for sightseers aboard a vintage B-17 Flying Fortress in Connecticut. There were 13 people on board. At least 7 were killed and 7 others injured, including one person on the ground. It happened as the crew of the civilian-owned plane tried to make an emergency return to the busy Hartford airport. Witnesses say they saw smoke and heard the engine sputter. The NTSB is now investigating the crash. Would you pay over $1,000 a month for that? They call it an apartment. It is a 200 square foot space that some are calling a backyard shed. It's in San Diego, California. The building does have plumbing and a small kitchenette, but no parking. The property management company says the previous tenant stayed there for 2 years and they were paying $1,100 per month, Dom.
I'm not sure. I think at one point in my life when I was younger, I lived in an efficiency apartment that was about that size, but I wasn't paying nearly $1,000 a month. Phil, would you do it?
Well, I live in New York, so I kind of already almost do, you know.
Well, San Diego's kind of nice. I mean, I'm just saying.
Beautiful. It is beautiful in San Diego. Some people are paying it, though.
Well, we do love you, San Diego. Philip Mena, live in New York. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Right. Well, straight ahead on the show here, a triple threat for markets and your money. Worldwide Exchange is coming back right after this.
I want to keep doing what I love.
Did you know Carphone Warehouse does business? That's why we understand how hard it is to go from this to this. But when you switch to the Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone with O2, you don't have to. It's packed with features to help you stay on track on the move. So, if you want to end your summer feeling like this, and not this, switch and save today with O2 and get the Samsung Galaxy S10 with 60 gigabytes of data for only £43 per month. Visit your nearest store or go online at business.carphonewarehouse.com/switch and save.
Fly from London Heathrow to Shannon from $55.99 each way as part of a return trip with Aer Lingus and experience something new on your next trip to Ireland. Discover the soaring cliffs and stunning scenery of the wild Atlantic Way. Explore the charming local towns and relax by the fireside with some traditional music and fresh seafood. Smart enjoys a short break in Ireland. Smart flies, Aer Lingus. Book now at airlingus.com. Offers subject to conditions and availability.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
The biggest cat in the world was longer than a cricket bat. Think that's big? This Friday's Euro Millions jackpot is an unmissable £169 million. 169 million! Now that's big!
Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Amazing starts here.
Estimated jackpot is capped at €190 million. Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden.
Hard breakfast. Tom Hanks is our special guest.
You're either being punished or rewarded. I'll let you decide.
I did do a whole show of grease on my front lawn when I was a kid. We charged everyone 10p. We raised a £5 and I gave it to Bishop's Waltham Gymnastics Club towards a new crash mat.
Do they get the crash mat?
I mean, it took a couple more years, but yeah.
It does happen to normal people like you. You've won £20,000. Well done.
I love this game.
Hard breakfast
with Jamie Theakston and Amanda Holden. Weekdays from 6:30. Listen on your radio, global player, or smart speaker.
Play hard.
An October gut check. Investors facing the fallout this morning from one of the worst starts to Q4 trading in the history of markets. The Dow down more than 800 points in just 2 days. Will be selling stop today. Nothing quiet on the trade war front. The Trump administration firing new salvos at the European Union overnight, targeting everything from jetliners to